Other hiring pitfalls, and these are the ones that you really need to be careful of as an HR manager. The most important thing is going to be discrimination claims. It's very important to note, and as HR managers and executives, you probably know what it is that you can and can't ask during an interview. You need to make sure that when you are searching the background on these social networking sites of potential applicants, that you keep that in mind. It's very difficult if an employer learns about such information about a potential applicant and then does not hire the applicant. It's very difficult to defend the employer because the argument would be that the knowledge of the protected class in some way played some kind of part in the employer's decision not to hire the candidate. Things that you need to be thinking about. If you find information regarding somebody's race, religion, national origin, age, sex, etc., that cannot be used in the hiring decision. And the problem is, if it's out there, you're going to have knowledge of it if you're looking at somebody's social networking site. Additionally, if you find out that somebody's disabled, in other words, you go onto somebody's Facebook page and find out that they're in a wheelchair and you think that you don't want the hassle for that in your employment or your employer, that can be used against you if the employee feels that that played any part in your decision of whether to hire or not. Now, you could do all this stuff right, of course, and you could still be sued for those types of allegations. You just have to be able to prove that it did not play any role in your decision to hire. Another thing you need to consider is benefits discrimination. You see on somebody's Facebook page that they're very proud of the fact that they are a breast cancer survivor. Well, then you start thinking about the health insurance that needs to be provided by the employer to that individual, and do you then determine, well, you know, I don't want the health insurance premiums to increase, I think I'm not going to hire that person. Firearms, this is an interesting one. Some states have prohibitions against discriminating or firing somebody because they own firearms. It's a Second Amendment thing. So you need to be careful of whether that ends up playing a role in your decision to hire someone. A benefit to that, however, is you may have increased knowledge or notice of somebody who might be potential workplace hazards. And then that is a consideration that you need to take into account when you're hiring somebody. There are also several states that have off-duty conduct laws. In other words, you can't discriminate against somebody for lawful off-duty conduct. Many of the Facebook, MySpace pages, Twitter accounts, blogs, they all have information about people's out-of-work activities. And there are several states that actually prevent you from discriminating against those. Florida is not one of them. California is, along with several others. And if you want additional information about your particular state, you can certainly ask. Several states also have smoking statutes that say that you cannot discriminate against somebody who is a smoker. So when you're looking for potential applicants and you're trying to develop this smoke-free work environment, you may be in trouble if that information leaks, if that played a part in your decision to hire the individual. Same thing with privacy issues. One of the claims when you unlawfully go into somebody's Facebook or you try to hide the fact that you went into somebody's Facebook is a privacy issue. If they have not allowed access to the general public, say for Facebook, and you gain access through a friend or you make a fake web page, then you can be invading in somebody's privacy. And we're going to actually talk about that a lot more because that's one of the biggest litigated areas, especially when it deals with monitoring when you already have current employees. Sexual orientation, again, in some states protect individuals' sexual orientation from being considered as a job applicant, marital status, and protected speech. One of the things you need to know, and I'm not sure how many of you have union issues, but when you have employees who are the members of a union, lots of union contracts and labor employment contracts have provisions in there about retaliating or discriminating against somebody for their political speech or for talking about workplace conditions and hazards. And again, it's very difficult to argue that information obtained from social networking sites did not in fact affect employees' hiring decisions. A recent Career Builder study indicates that 35% of employers reported that they have found some content on social networking sites that caused them not to hire a candidate. Now, some of these things may not actually relate to discrimination claims, but you've got to be very careful about what things are causing you not to hire. This one has provocative and inappropriate photographs or information. 53% of employers found inappropriate photographs that prevented them from actually hiring that individual. Now, I know that we're talking to management side here, but you people are also most likely involved in Facebook or MySpace or some kind of social networking on your own. So these are things that employees looking for jobs need to also take into account. Many people posted comments about them drinking or using drugs, and that prevented them from hiring them. Others were able to find out that the potential applicant badmouthed prior employers or clients, showed poor communication skills, made discriminatory comments about others and other people's workplace. And this is important because as an employer, you are responsible for trying to eliminate as much as possible discrimination, as well as harassment claims. So if you find that kind of stuff on somebody's social networking site, it can be a good indication that you might have trouble if you end up hiring that individual. Many people found out that the candidate lied about qualifications, so it's a very good way to background check. A lot of other employers reported that the potential candidate shared confidential information about a prior employer. Now, some of you may be involved in employers who have patent or copyright considerations. That is going to be very important that you have applicants and you actually hire people who are cognizant of the fact that private trade secret information cannot be leaked even if you are outside of the employment context with that particular employer. There's also non-compete agreements that you may find some people talking about on their social networking sites, and that may lead you to further inquiry whether your particular applicant has an issue with a non-compete clause. Additional pitfalls to the use of social networking for hiring applicants is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Many of you probably use credit reporting companies as an initial background search on potential employees. If you're going to do that, you've got to be sure to provide written disclosures and obtain a release from the employee. Credit reports can contain information such as a consumer's credit, future credit. It can also have information that's confidential about the particular employer regarding their living status, what kind of expenses they have on a regular basis. And this is something, if you're going to delve into a consumer, the consumer has their own rights. And when you use a fair credit reporting company, you need to make sure that they're aware that you're going to be doing that. There's also a problem with fake MySpace pages. In other words, if you create a fake MySpace page to delve into somebody else's background information, that can be considered an invasion of privacy. So you've got to be careful about those kind of things. No matter what you do, you want to make sure that all your screening practices are consistent. If you are going to be screening people, you need to make sure you screen everybody the same exact way at the same exact time during the interview process. Additionally, especially if you're going to use credit reports, if you decide not to hire somebody, then you have to actually provide the consumer with a copy of the credit report and give them information about where they can go to dispute any of the things that are on the credit report. So those are some considerations that you need to know. Here's another problem. Lots of people think that they can go onto Facebook or Google or MySpace and find somebody, and that person will never know if they were on there. It's all anonymous, right? Well, there are several sites, IP sites, especially MySpace, which enables users to track a visitor's IP address, their location via satellite imagery, their host name, the time and date that they actually looked at their profile, the total hits, in other words, how many times they actually went on there. And this stuff can be used against you in court, and especially if you're going to not hire somebody very close in time after you look at their MySpace profile. You could be getting yourself in trouble. Again, that comes in under the ability to defend an employer who is looking at those kind of websites in order to get information about a potential candidate. Most of the IP addresses and Facebook's and MySpace also have disclaimers of their own, indicating that you can only use the site for personal, non-commercial use. That's mainly so that Facebook and MySpace can limit their own liability. But you need to make sure if you're going to enter those sites that you're going to be following those types of disclaimers.